Welcome, folks, to the Craig Bushon Show. So excited to have you with me today because today we're with Dr. Bob Marshall, Quantum Nutrition Labs, right here in Austin, Texas. Listen, he has his own program. He speaks to people all the time, every day. Healthline live radio show, I believe in over 50 markets. And what's so great is we're both right here in the Austin area. And I wanted to come find out about some of the facts about what we can do to deal with the situations of our health. And as you know, folks, dealing a lot with our veterans right now through Heroes Night Out and with our Be First and Media team. So I want to come to one of the most credible sources in the industry, Mr. Bob Marshall. Thank you, Doctor, for being with us today.
Thanks for having me,
Sure.
Craig. And I'm contemplating your question, and I realize that in the grand scheme of health, the first issue always comes back to minerals. And it's interesting, whether it's a veteran or it's someone right here in the U.S., there's a significant decline in the mineral nutriture available through our food. In fact, there was a book many years ago called The Empty Harvest, highlighting how much mineral loss there's been. And the worst mineral loss, believe it or not, is in North America, not in Europe, where they use sustainable agriculture. And not so much in South America, although they are following suit with America in losing their minerals. Minerals can't be made by the body. So when you're deficient, just a cascade of problems occur. So how can you, as a listener, tell whether you're mineral deficient or not? Or how can you tell, Craig? You can buy a $10 roll of pH paper, tear off a little strip, pass it through the first morning urine stream. It'll change color, you match it to the chart color, and your goal is to be in the green, 6.4 to 7.0. And many people, especially women, may find themselves in the blue zone. That means that you're making ammonia to buffer your urine. You're so mineral deficient, okay? Now, with this mineral deficiency comes all manner of illness. And we see so many people going around with lip balms because their lips are chapped. Whether it's summer or winter, once you get your minerals right, your lips never chap again. Interesting little oddball thing.
It really is. We had a fabulous conversation before the show, and I really want to continue it. I think there's such great knowledge that comes from your facility here, and I believe we're all in this together. And the reality is that a lot of the folks out there who watch the show, a lot of them are veterans. Okay, a lot of them are coming back. Some are back right now. They're struggling to feel better. A lot of them are on medication. PTSD is a huge thing right now. Post-traumatic stress disorder, traumatic brain injury. Obviously, they're exposed to a lot of things in the art of war. And so what we're trying to do is figure out some of the best ways for people to find that balance in life that it's not so evasive or invasive.
Well, Craig, when you're mineral deficient, often you feel nervous or you feel uncomfortable, or you just can't get to a nice, relaxed state because you're missing minerals like magnesium. And magnesium is really a tricky mineral in that it's held in your blood by adrenaline. So in addition to being low in your food, you now have another parameter of excreting it because you have had high stress. And I can't imagine a soldier who's been in active duty that hasn't had high stress. Can you?
Sure, no, absolutely.
So I would say magnesium in almost 100% of these cases would be a godsend in terms of helping them to sleep. It does several things. It can express over 20 genes that regulate weight loss, and it has another 20 or so genes that regulate sense of well-being, calmness, all those things that I think would be a great blessing to the homecoming veteran. So minerals would be number one. Yes, we said you can measure it. Okay, now you have ammonia or you're a 5 like most Americans. You're extremely acid. Okay, what would you take as a mineral? Well, you could buy carrot and celery juice, and it'll have a profound help. It has more calcium than a glass of milk. I don't recommend milk because it's got to be pasteurized and creates so many other problems. So you could go to carrot and celery juice. My favorite is a form of marine coral because it's inexpensive, it's very biologically available, and you take a dose, you're done with it like that in the morning. You can take a capsule or you can take a powder. I prefer the powder because whenever I can, I don't want to take a capsule.
Right.
So now you can monitor yourself every 3 days and watch your urine pH come back into the green zone. And imagine each tenth of a pH you move toward the ideal range, 6,470, is a tenfold increase in tissue oxygen. You're going to have more energy. You're going to need less sleep. You're going to be stronger. You're going to be calm. These are simple, basic things any American can do, but especially somebody who's seen combat.
Well, one of the big issues that's facing a lot of our returning veterans is that they will have issues, physical and mental, and they're just prescribed medicine. It's really a chemical fix, if you will, for what could be a chemical problem, obviously.
Exactly.
And and so I guess it's trying to, lack of a better term, fight fire with fire. It's another war that's happening. That war that each one of us carry around inside ourselves.
Exactly.
It sounds like gets even more exasperated when a soldier's going out under stress, and then all those elevations go up. So when someone comes back, what are some of the, so they can get the
pH paper and some minerals like coral.
Okay.
And they can push this pH. Okay, now, many of them may have been exposed to spent radioactive munitions. This is a tough one, but I think the world, when it dealt with Chernobyl, the Bulgarians showed us that the major player for removing radioactive materials was zeolite. And most people don't even know what zeolite is, but zeolite
I don't know what zeolite is.
It's mostly used synthetically to wash your clothes because it traps dirt very nicely. It traps all kinds of things, including radiation. So there are things that they might want to do. They might want to use a zeolite supplement to help clear any residual radiation from the body. They may also want to improve the oils they're consuming. One thing that you said earlier that I really want to I want to disagree with.
Sure, that's okay.
And I hate saying that, but that's the word I have to use.
Fine.
I do not agree that a chemical exposure is going to be corrected by another chemical exposure.
Right, absolutely.
And that was sort of the suggestion. What I want to say is we need to up the nutritional metabolism to get rid of these toxins. And I think you were there before. And there's a very interesting clay that I think would be a godsend to all of the veterans, but also to all Americans. And this is a clay that's the world's only calcium bentonite clay. It's calcium aluminum silicate. It doesn't take any nutrients. It donates calcium, and it can trap up to 98% of all toxins as it moves through the GI tract. I think it is something for the 21st century because our food has so many toxins. We tend to want to drink alcohol. Many of the things we like now are a distant shadow compared to what they were before. Many people like beer, and we used to be a country that made great beer. Now, most of the beer is pasteurized. Many of the beer brands have many added chemicals. So now when you take this, it's another load to the body.
Well, it's ironic you bring up alcohol because that is what that prescribed medicine that a lot of people will do is that they will self-medicate themselves by drinking alcohol or taking drugs. And I just happen to believe, and I completely agree with you, by the way, what I was stating earlier about the chemical fight is really what's happening within our medical world. They're just throwing a chemical at this other chemical issue and creating this new war, if you will. But we have to find that balance, and that key is to you got to break through all the noise. I mean, media, that window, right? There's so much misinformation, mistakenly said. Someone mistakenly gives some bad information. That happens, and then there's a growing disinformation, dishonesty, on purpose, magic pills, magic wand. Do this, you're done, you're fixed, or the opposite. If you don't take this pill, these bad things are going to happen. Forget about the side effects. We're seeing more more and more we're being inundated with all of these chemical options to fix our problems. It feels to me, and obviously you'll correct me if I'm wrong, it feels we're getting, every time we do that, we're getting farther and farther away from the fix.
That's where I was going when I said before, you can't really fight a chemical with a chemical.
Sure.
First, we've got to get the minerals back, because the body cannot make minerals. That's got to be our first step. Second step really needs to be to make sure we have adequate, essential fatty acids. And the key word is essential. Without them, the body doesn't function well. And what we see over and over again is more and more problems with the kidneys and kidney failure, and more of it being linked back to not getting good oils that the body needs for its brain, for its kidney, for its nerves. And I would bet that if we were to test the 500 or 1,000 of the returning vets, they would all have markers of essential fatty acid deficiency. And wow, again, you talk about being anxious, or you talk about not being able to relax and calm down. Fatty acids are again one of the key links. Uh-oh.
That's okay.
You'll excuse me, I will send that away.
That's okay.
So sorry.
I've had that happen. I know you have, because as you know, Dr. Bob Marshall also does his own broadcasting, and it happens consistently that I've actually I'll tell you a quick story. I've actually taken a call while I'm on the air and put them on speakerphone and said, do you not know that I'm actually on from this time to this time? But the reality is that we're in the information age. You would think there's so much availability of information that we should be the wisest people to ever live. Instead, we're becoming, really, in my opinion, some of the least intelligent people to ever live. Now, part of that could be because we're just not willing to look deep enough and find the truth. That could be true. And the other part is maybe we're just inundated with so much disinformation on purpose that we can't make a decision. It's garbage in, garbage out, like we say about our computers.
But I would agree that the opportunity to learn today with the internet
Sure.
is a greater opportunity than the only thing that came close to it was back in the ancient Greek times when they would go to the oracle of Delphi, and it would give them an audience and answer any question they had. I feel like the oracle for us is the internet.
Right. It is. It's a window of opportunity for people to find what they're looking for. And that's that magic, is that you can find what you're looking for.
That's hard.
Rather than finding the true answer. And that's, again, why we're sitting here today with Dr. Bob Marshall, because we need to know the facts. We need to know the truth. We need to open up that window, pierce that veil, if you will, of all that busy noise out there and bring some facts. And our veterans, there's millions of them within our society. I doc with people who are from Vietnam, still dealing with those issues. And because a lot of them probably aren't dealing with that internal issue of health too. And my goal is to find a simple, safe, synergistic way, if you will, to get people at least to square one, to first base.
Yeah, exactly.
And put a plan together that's easy for them to follow. Start here. And then at least start here, and we can start down that journey to fix these things.
And simple, inexpensive nutrients like minerals, like DHA, a really good fatty acid, docosahexaenoic acid, like clays, like the calcium aluminum silicate, the only calcium bentonite clay. For the sake of the listener, you can see how profound this clay is. There are more than 20 really great studies done by Dr. Tim Phillips, and you can find those out at pubmed.gov. And there's another website, yourclay.com. And it will curl your hair what this clay can do. And if anybody needs it, I think it's someone who's toxic. And I can't think of anybody who's more toxic than someone who's come back and been associated with spent radioactive type munitions.
Right, absolutely. And real quick, I made a few notes, and it's interesting. If you go to Quantum Nutrition Labs, and you just Google it. I mean,
QN Labs.
QN Labs, that's it, right? It's easier, right? But the new god of information is like, just Google it now, right?
Yeah, that's right.
That's all you got to do. But it's interesting what you say, because it says the mission. Our mission is to help everyone support and maintain their own great health based on 5 key areas: broad spectrum nutrients, living nutrients, free of toxic tagalongs, 100% pure vegetable capsules, and no excipients.
That's right, so that you're going to get a benefit right away, like almost any nutrient could do. But then taking it day in and day out, there's not going to be any harmful side effect. Unfortunately, when we have excipients, chemicals like sodium bentonate, sodium benzoate, I'll get it right. Sodium benzoate has been shown to be a carcinogen, cancer-causing agent, and it's now shown to be cumulatively toxic, yet we still use it. Questionable excipients, magnesium stearate. So in order to get away from the bad press from magnesium stearate, they go to calcium stearate or stearic acid. It's the same problem. And we need to shift away from this junk in the supplement, so it's going to be good short-term and long-term. And one of the things that the public doesn't realize now that supplements are becoming used by more than 80% is that tablets and weird chemical excipients were approved for drug use, basically short-term use. So you're going to use them a month or 2 or 3, I think you're okay. But if you're going to take this thing day in and day out for 20 years, I can't say that this is something I would ever do or that I could morally feel is the right thing to sell to anybody.
Right. Well, one other question, and I appreciate you sitting with us today, and I hope we can continue the dialogue because this is valuable information for the people and for myself. Selfishly, I'll say, I want to know too. We all should know. All will be a student of life. But we hear a lot of things out there now that are inundating people like gluten. You know, everything, you go to the store, and the problem just might be you're gluten intolerant. You know, so probably it's that. So if you Google that, and then it has a whole list of stuff. And I'm just going to pick on gluten for the sake of this argument. Mm-hmm. That it seems like for the average person who's trying to find out that information, no matter what they put in, if it's gluten, if it's some other thing, a lactose, it lists almost the same thing, and many things. There are people like, that's me. That's got to be my problem. So now we see gluten-free everywhere. But that's that self-diagnosis it seems like people are trying to do.
I would agree, but I would say we have to take a step backwards.
Okay.
One of the things that's causing America's demise is its ignorance of history. As has been said, if you don't know history, you're doomed to repeat it again and again.
Sure.
And that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing right now. Right. With a sort of a very dangerous tryst towards socialism. But not knowing history, let's go back and look at wheat. 1905. 1905, wheat was about 28% protein. Today, it's somewhere about 9 to 12%. Oh, well, what changed in the wheat? Could it be gluten? Oh, I think you guessed right the first time. Mm-hmm. So now, you have something called wheat, but is this really wheat? I'm going to say it's nothing like what we ate 100 years ago. It's got the same name, but it's not the same. And as a result, I would say that it's a good idea not to eat much wheat. And the concentration of gluten now has exponentially increased. So, the small irritation that might have been present 100 years ago is now a very pronounced potential irritation. And even people that are symptom-free when they eat wheat may still have some aggravation in the bowel. Mm-hmm. And what we're seeing is we're becoming a nation that's overweight. The primary thing that I feel is driving that is eating make-believe food. And there's 2 make-believe foods. Right. If you listen to my show, you're going to learn. White sugar and white flour. These are not foods. These are make-believe food. The best you can have when you eat them is make-believe health. So stopping gluten or stopping white flour and pretty much stopping wheat is a good idea. Now, if we go to my favorite subject, which is anti-aging, and we take a look at carbohydrates.
Now, you said anti-aging, not age management.
Not age management.
Those are the 2 I hear,
Correct.
Anti-aging and then age management.
Yeah,
okay.
We're talking about anti-aging,
okay.
And I was very specific.
Okay, I wanted to make sure, that's fine.
Okay, so in anti-aging, we learn that the agent that accelerates aging the most is alcohol. The next one is sugar. And the next one is all carbohydrates. And interestingly, they have indicted the carbohydrates in the tremendous weight gain that America is facing. And what I would recommend to the listeners, it's going to take a little effort, but shift your diet so that there's maybe very low sugar fruits for breakfast, a major meal at lunch, which is carbohydrate free, and then a dinner that has carbohydrate and a salad and is a lighter meal. Now you can easily attain your ideal weight, which you notice I maintain all these years. Even though at 28 I was 208 pounds. Okay,
But you probably had a different lifestyle.
Yeah, I sure did. I wasn't exercising either. So by making this shift, there can be a profound shift toward health, and that would take care of lactose, because that's a sugar. It would take care of gluten and all those things in one fell swoop. And I do want to comment on lactose, because to me, this is a devastation that has occurred because technology has allowed us to make cheese in one day. And it used to be that we would have to age the cheese. Now, when we make cheese in one day, it takes 10 pounds of milk to make 1 pound of cheese. So you have this elephant dose of lactose. No African American, no Asian can digest any lactose, and supposedly 23% or so of the Caucasians can. But I think it may be even less than that, especially when you get a dose of that amount. So what I recommend, if you're forced to eat out and you can't control the type of cheese you get, that you take a digestant that has lactase. And you want to know how much can it digest? Well, we manufacture a digestant. One capsule will digest 4 ounces of this garbage cheese. So if you're eating more than that, it has to be a pizza, and then take 2.
Right, yes.
So we can counter this garbage if we're faced with it, but we can also shift away from it. So I'm going to say, with regard to gluten, let's change gears, and let's see if we can't encourage farming. And I am investing and researching the farming to try to bring back the wheat of 100 years ago.
Right.
And now see if we can have a square meal like they
Well,
did.
that brings up the whole conversation that we'll have another time, and I definitely want to have you back on the show. This is great information. We'll put a link up to the doctor's, his own show. He does a fantastic show he's done for many, many years, and it's all about information. It's about knowledge. Wisdom really comes from within. You have to ingest it, right?
And then use it.
Exactly right.
Knowing and doing
that's
right.
That's exactly right. And but the bottom line is, that's what it's about, the communication world. We're both in the communication business. Not everyone can do it or wants to do it.
Of course.
And I believe that our duty when we do it is to get the best information out we can. And that's my goal, and that's why I was so glad that you agreed to sit down today. And it's a wonderful facility. I look forward to learning more about the things, sharing with the people too where they can go. They need a map. They need a way to, we have maps for everything in life, it seems.
Except how to take care of this body.
That's exactly right. So that map is what people need to know, and make it readily available to them. And that's what I'd like to do with your help, is to drive people to studying that map and then following it.
Well, I couldn't agree more, because I'm a great proponent of the Proverbs from the Hebrew texts, and in fact I've memorized them, and I live my life by those. And I can tell you that the first sign of wisdom, that means knowing and doing right, is respect. And the first sign of respect is respecting this body you're trapped in. And I think we're a very disrespectful nation. We need to learn some respect, because when you don't respect something, it gets taken from you. So it's a really good idea to learn how to care and fuel this machine.
Well, I said last question a moment ago, but I have to ask you this. Because it's so interesting, and people. It seems like so many people. We say anti-aging, right? But people want to live forever, right? In a sense, right? Is there an internal clock? Is there, does genetics have something to do with it? I mean, tons of people say, well, my grandfather, he ate chicken and eggs and gravy every morning,
smoked cigarettes
and had whiskey, and he's 97 years old.
But look at the shape of him at 97.
Right.
He can barely walk, see, taste. He certainly has no reproductive function. He is alive technically, but let me ask you and the listeners, do you want to be alive like that? No one does. So what's actually happening in our longevity is we should make it about 120. And the 120 would start hitting the wall because in our cell is a little clock. And every time the cell divides, one of these little clock keepers called a telomere drops off. And that is the ultimate limit, but hardly anyone ever gets there because they don't have adequate minerals. They're eating cooked food when they're engineered for raw food, and they're not taking digestants. The way the stomach was engineered was to remethylate you. You were not engineered to eat cooked food. By eating the cooked food, you squander your HCl. The simple act of doing that will cost you a third of your viable lifespan. So about the maximum you can make it, feeling pretty crummy, is 90. You've lost the 30 years because you're demethylated. And in the demethylation episode, the Genome Project has shown us that the gene deck, 98% were thought to be junk genes. We now know 35% of those are virus and cancer genes, called oncogenes. They're expressed as we demethylate. We demethylate by eating cooked food without taking hydrochloric acid when we eat the cooked food. So you can't get me to eat a cooked food meal without betaine hydrochloride. These are the things you need to learn if you want the 120 while you're still strong. All the marbles work. You can see, you can taste, you can smell, your reproductive faculties work, everything works. That's doable, but 120 pretty much is going to be the rate limiting point unless we can resolve the riddle of the telomeres, okay? And maybe in another show I'll explain the riddle.
Yes.
And I will say this, that we are intensely researching the riddle.
Well, I will tell you this, folks, you can believe that. Trust me, with the time that I've spent with this man, you can absolutely believe that. And thank you so much.
Great to be with you.
Absolutely.
Thanks for the time.
Absolutely. Great stuff. And folks, please know, share this with everybody. Get the information out. We'll have it posted up on Facebook. We'll be tweeting about it. We'll have it up on my site. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.